It's really cute.
His shirt should say though, Canada's not for sale.
Oh, yeah.
And I had the Wayne's World cassette tape on our table, so they posed with it.
It was an 80s theme, or was it?
It's like whatever your table wanted to be themed, but
What was your theme?
Mine was 90s grunge.
90s
We all
grunge.
wore flannels.
All right. Smashing Pumpkins, 9 Inch Nails.
Yes.
Nirvana.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I am slipping. You do have an eye. What the heck is going on here?
Which building?
Okay, we're going to get ready and start the committee of the whole meeting. We have several presentations, so I'd like to get started.
Okay, good.
Ready? Okay, good evening. The hour being 7:25 PM on Monday, March 10th, 2025. I'd like to call to order the Village of Brookfield Committee of the Whole meeting. Bridget, can we have a roll call for the committee meeting, please?
Trustee Ketchmark?
Here.
Trustee Cote?
Here.
Trustee Niramatsu?
Here.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Here.
And President Garvey.
Here. Thank you, Bridget. The first item, we have a continued discussion concerning the building configuration for purpose of informing the final presentation of the community center feasibility study. This is something we've talked about at previous meetings. The board gave some very helpful feedback at previous meetings, and we're back tonight with some various options to go forward. So Stevie's going to take the lead on the presentation? Okay, thank you, Stevie.
Tonight, we are, as you have stated, trying to determine consensus for the final building plan configuration for the community center feasibility study to move forward into its next and final phase. We did, at the January 27th Committee of the Whole, Williams Architects team and the subcontractors provided all of the to-date information as of January 27th to include final site selection and building option. The board directed staff to get some additional community feedback following that open house presentation that was provided. We did get some additional feedback, which allowed and informed the board on their consensus and final site selection and final building design. Tonight, we are talking about the configuration of that building design on the selected site. In the board packet, the board was provided the configuration options that are up for discussion. We're going to show those options again this evening and just try to get to a consensus as far as the configuration of the building itself on the site. This is option A. The only difference I'll note now between option A and option B, it is the same facility with the same amenities and programming within the facility. It is just a mirror image of each other when you see it on the site for configuration purposes. This building does and was the final selected option based on community feedback at the open house, the survey that was open for all residents to take, and with board input and discussion as well. Ground floor does have covered parking. When you see that full gray parking scale, that is at the ground floor level, and it is covered parking off of the facility itself. Same amenities again in both options with a raised terrace and the walking jogging track that meanders through the facility rather than just around the gym floor as a couple of amenity highlights. Hitchcock Design Group did provide 2 rough sketch drawings of initial marking for parking configuration. This is the parking configuration with that first option, option A. Option A had the parking on the interior side of the park. Ball field 1 is what you see on the left side panel. The parking configuration would allow for additional parking outside of the covered parking, as well as additional vehicle thoroughfare through and attached to the existing parking off of the fire station. This option allows for plus or minus 90 parking spaces compared to building option B, which we'll get to, which is a little bit less, but has the potential to have 102 with the rough sketch drawing. But this is option A. You'll see entry off of Shields Avenue onto Sunnyside Avenue into the parking lot. That view does provide for more visual sight lines of the facility itself. As it's not tucked into the interior of the park, you would be able to see more of the facility design entering into the space off of Sunnyside, and there is more impact to the existing parking with reconfiguration on this option. Option B, again, you'll see all of the same amenities and programming within the space itself. It is just flipped to the opposite side when you use that parking as a focal or start point in orienting yourself compared to option A. Still covered parking at the ground level, and we can look at how that is rough sketched with the potential parking configuration in option B. You'll see the entry off of Shields Avenue into Sunnyside, entering the parking lot. This configuration provides straight parking into that covered, less impact to the existing parking lot adjacent to the soccer fields. And you'll see that thoroughway go through into the existing parking lot off of the fire station and Shields Avenue as well. And again, this option as sketched provides plus or minus 82 parking spaces with additional potential for 102 if we were to option the triangle piece behind Ball Field 1 into additional parking spaces rather than leaving it. The village engineer did provide a high-level review. Again, this is very high level at this stage. We're at sketched parking, for example, and determining proceeding further into further design. Hancock answered some high-level questions related to water detention, current detention basins, and what the impact of this facility would have on those water detention areas. Hancock did not previously work on the parking lot at Ellert Park, which was awarded to a different engineering for design and completion. And so Hitchcock Design will do some more discovery work into numbers when it comes to impact of water detention and storage areas. Second question was being aware of any utility or easements, including restrictions not currently shown on the survey, which is what the rough parking sketch is laid over. There are no village-owned sewer and water utilities in the vicinity of the project that would impact. However, additional discovery needs to be done to see if there are other public utilities, Nicor, ComEd, or phone lines, for example. And the final question, asking if there are pros and cons regarding stormwater management and utilities for the site. And Hitchcock will do some additional discovery there. There are no obvious red flags or barriers that would keep us from selecting one option versus the other in site layout configuration. But these are just things to take into account when discussing both building options. The Parks and Recreation Commissioners also were provided input onto the two building options. The commissioners had 3 supporting option A, 3 supporting option B, and 1 supportive of both options. The comments from the Parks and Rec Commissioners were provided in the memo packet. Some of those highlights on option A for commissioners preferring that option was the visibility from Shields Avenue as a pro. They didn't see it as consequential to impacting visitors in the parking configuration when it comes to the utilization of parking for the soccer fields, which are adjacent to the site, with priority consideration being given to visitors of the facility if one should be built at that location. Additionally, they liked the turnaround in the parking configuration of that option. Option B comments that were summarized include providing more green space in the interior of the park with not taking it up with additional parking, so keeping the green space green. They liked this parking configuration better when they compared it to the drop-off zone in the front of that building to option A. The roof terrace facing the ball fields of the interior of the park was preferred by one trustee, citing that specific reason, rather than having that second floor green terrace overlook out to Prairie Avenue or the homes along Prairie Avenue. And there was less concern in baseball fields leaving the field toward cars for that option. Additionally, we solicited the fire chief for his input of the selected facility site and draft parking sketch configuration. Currently, the fire department utilizes that parking lot area for some training and parking their reserve vehicles. There is also a future vision plan to expand that fire station out of the rear of the garage. If the feasibility of a facility were to ever come to fruition, staff would work together to ensure to mitigate any impact of existing uses should a new facility be built. So tonight, we're just hoping to get some consensus from the board on a chosen option A or option B with the sketched parking configuration that will allow the Williams team and their subcontractors to continue their professional work in draft finalization of parking configuration with site, as well as business plan and financial pro forma that will go along with the final presentation of the project.
Thank you, Stevie. And that last part was very important. I want to make it clear to everyone that's here tonight, we're not picking a building and breaking ground tomorrow. This is giving some direction after a lot of public feedback, this board's feedback, the Parks and Recreation program, the residents that have been involved, to give some direction to our consultants so they can start to narrow down the project and eventually come forward with more detailed plans, which include a business plan and the financial pro forma and final proposed example of site design, so we can get a better idea in terms of price tag and what would be needed. This would take some resident approval for this to go forward, but Stevie laid out very clearly the options for us tonight, building option A versus building option B. And I thank the Playground and Recreation Board for giving their feedback before tonight. So I'll just open it up to comments from the board at this point, trying to find a consensus on A versus B.
Can I ask a question before I weigh in? Is there, in the slide you're looking at right now, in that upper right-hand side where it says, I think it says added parking question mark, like a big rectangle?
That is contingent on knowing if that space is currently used for water storage, and knowing what the required water storage would be. So that was kind of a place saver sketch for Hitchcock to get that answered prior to identifying it as parking.
And if that was used as parking, how is that contributing into the overall total? Is this the one that had 82, but if you added where those two areas are circled?
So that area off of Shields Avenue I gotta learn my north, south, east, west compass directions when I'm talking about this.
Shields
So-
is to the north.
Yeah. to the northeast of Sunnyside is potential parking, and then the triangle piece to the northwest of the fire station facility is also potential for additional parking.
And so you're saying if you used both of those sections, it would add up to 102 instead of 82?
Correct.
Got it. And I think that triangle up there, is that the area where there is a big native planting? Is that where the bioswale?
There is an existing water storage area there. Impact that the facility would have on increased water storage is yet to be determined, but there are areas in the park that would allow for additional storage.
And I just thought about this, if it would be helpful for the board, I mean, we do have public comment at the end of this committee of the whole meeting, but there might be some public that would have comment on this, and if we're trying to build a consensus in here, would you like me to open it up to see if there's any public comment from the audience at this point on this particular topic?
Sure.
Okay. So, I mean, just so it's clear for the audience, what we're debating, we're looking for input on option A versus option B. That's the point we're at in terms of building a consensus. As I explained, this is not about whether we're going to build this or whether it's going to be built. So comments related to whether or not we should build it, whether we don't need it. I mean, we've had other opportunities, and there'll be other opportunities for that going forward. I'm just looking if there's anyone that want to give some feedback. I know you've had a chance to see the presentation. We have a very detailed packet. So is there anyone on the right side that wants to offer any comment or input to, give anything to the board at this point? Okay, no. Anybody on the left side? Ms. Barb, if you can please come up to the microphone. Thank you.
Hello. Barbara Dahm, 4513 Park. And everyone knows my opinion, and my opinion is option C, none of the above, because I don't think we need it. And that's my opinion. Thanks for hearing me.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else on this side have any input they want to share with the board at this point? Okay, I just wanted to do that in case, people are here tonight and wanted to share anything. So I'll go back looking for some feedback from the board. I mean, again, I think the packet does a good job of laying out the, differences between the various options and talking. I actually did have a question about that, and Trustee Cote, maybe you could help me here, because one of the comments was related to the likelihood of balls leaving the ball field and affecting parking. How much distance is between the right field fence of field one? Well, I'm asking more staff where it's.
355?
Right, but that's but how much, I'm just to scale approximately how much distance between the right field fence and where that parking begins. This is option B that's up there, correct, right now? There is some parking right there on option B. Is there anything on there that shows approximately what the distance is there?
Beyond the visual on the graphic now, I couldn't tell you how many feet.
Okay. We have some very big hitters and some home run hitters. I just haven't seen a lot of, that's a very big ball field. High school plays there in Western Conference. I don't think balls leaving the park and going that far are
I
very.
don't think they do. So center field, I think is 355, and I'm gonna say right and left is like 3 1/4, going out to the fence. And in all the years that I've been coaching on that field, I think I've only seen 2 actually go over center field. I don't think I've ever seen one go over right field. Left field, they get them going over left field a lot, but right field I haven't seen.
Right.
But that doesn't include RB at the RB level, so I couldn't tell you. But
Right.
325, you're talking, that's got to be 335 to get to that parking lot. That's not a very common thing on right field.
But I appreciate the fact that they thought about that, comment in terms of the configuration, so. And, the other differences between, the rooftop terrace view and things like this were things that were brought up, so.
How many parking spots is standard for a building of this size, do you know? Is it,
I could not tell you if the building itself has all of the required parking with this current sketch, or if additional parking would need to be identified.
okay, because I tend to like B, but I like the idea of keeping the green spaces as they are. and not making them into parking. Also, is the skate parking here still? Where did that get?
It's overlaid, the skate park would have to be removed for the facility itself.
Okay, thanks.
And I know one of the drawings had a proposed possible change location for the skate park.
The skate park is at its end of life as of 2027, so we would have an option into that budget year to relocate or to remove it as an amenity.
And I get where an architect would think the sight line of A, so you can see it coming in that street, and they can see the beautiful display. And I like the turnaround, like that seems really efficient to be dropping people off until everyone parks and waits for their kid, and then no one finishes the circle. But I do lean towards B as well. I just think it's less disruptive parking-wise to the green space. Also, if it was going to add additional, I think that triangle space makes more sense because there is already like a connection to parking off of Shields there. I'd love to try and avoid the additional parking in the already like natural space that's been maintained by volunteers for a long time. But that's my opinion, and I think I would bring it back to Conservation Commission about that natural area as well.
I agree.
So trustee Cluzy, just so you prefer option B? I mean,
Yes.
weighing everything together. Okay, thank you. Sorry, trustee Cote.
That's all good. I do wonder, why wouldn't we include the triangle parking in all of the layouts? I mean, I don't know why we would eliminate it from one to the other. And Chief Adams doesn't think that would be an impact on his parking? With people going in and out, the way it's all drawn out, whenever we have the parking right there, that's not gonna affect the fire department whatsoever going in and out, or they won't lose parking?
No, his concern was primarily with existing uses within the area, and that was vision for build-out in the future, training and parking of their existing reserve vehicles. Both companies, when creating municipal facilities or recreation or community center facilities, they do have a high number of fire station facilities that they need to configure traffic flow and parking for. It wasn't identified by either party as a concern at this point, but I did pull up that option A. It does show you how the parking is configured in that triangle west of the fire station. And that was to identify the additional parking for this option. When you compare it to option B, they do not show it as parking already configured, and that is because it does already allow for additional parking with the configuration in option B. But it's also an option to add it if needed in the future.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of just adding it anyways. But I do agree with trustee Kaluzny on leaving that other natural area alone if we can. That's my preference. I'd rather leave that section alone, parking in the triangle. I personally would rather have the terrace facing all the ball fields. We are an area that takes pride in its baseball and softball area, and the terrace then gives you a good view of the softball, Danny Hole Field, and good view of the RB and Field 1 for all the seniors. So I prefer the terrace facing that section. I'm in agreement with trustee Kaluzny on option B.
Okay, thank you.
I prefer the layout of option B.
Trustee Niramatsu, you kind of B? Okay, that's what I thought earlier, so, okay. I think there's a clear consensus from the Ford board members that are here tonight, and if I was asked, I would lean towards option 4 also for basically preserving the green space and the layout. I understand as trustee Kaluzny, the point of, that it'd be a highly nice visual entrance off of Shields Avenue, but Shields Avenue and Sunnyside, that is a residential area. I mean, if and when this is built, people in Brookfield will know that it's there. It's not like they're not going to know where it's at and they're not going to see it unless they drive by and see it.
Not that tucked.
They're going to know that it's there. And I think option B has the least amount of impact on the green space in the existing park, which we pride ourselves on trying to preserve as much green space. So I would lean towards option B also. So based on that, Stevie, I know there's a timeline in here, but what's the next steps after tonight, so?
The next step, I'll take this back to Williams and the team. They will additionally professionally sketch this for us and provide some renderings. This all goes into the final planned phase for final presentation to the board, which is anticipated to be the second meeting in April.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone for the input in the presentation tonight, so. Okay, moving on to the second item, we have a discussion regarding contract services, proposed contract services by KPGS Consulting for the Brookfield Shops at Progress Park program. Libby Popovic, our Community Development Director, gave us a very detailed memo kind of explaining what the possible need was and what the recommendation was here, but I'm going to ask Libby to summarize her presentation here for the members of the public and the board.
Okay, as you know, we are deeply into building the Brookfield shops. There's roughly 4 phases that have been outlined. We had the initial program development, which was bringing it to the board, establishing it, get it ready. Phase 2 is the interior and exterior build-out, which we're in the process of doing right now. The third phase is the vendor selection, which we completed March 4th, and now we need to do the orientation. We're having the kickoff meeting tomorrow. The full orientation, the training, and then all the administration as part of the administration of the retail program. And then the last one is long-term maintenance and operations with that. So just to give the board an idea of where we're at in the process, some of the critical phases that we've completed is we've established the site and site acquisition and completed the lease. We completed the excavation and the shed build-out. We did all the code compliance with the permits, security measures and signage that we have out there. We have selected the vendors, and we did the jury selection for the vendors and completed that whole process. We did apply for a DCEO grant. We are still waiting for results on that. They're a little bit behind on it. And then we've reached out to community partnerships, to other businesses, and general program coordination. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a lot of things to finish in the next 10 weeks. We will get it done because we anticipated that it would be a little bit of a lull. We built the sheds in December. Then there was a little bit of a lull, and now the weather has broke. So right now, we're getting the electricity completed, so that was another aspect, getting that arranged with the building to the west. So we're working on the exterior build-out. The electricity should be done this week. So we're focusing on the exterior build-out, the interior build-out. That will be coming in the next couple of weeks, and that is the insulation, drywall, lighting, and flooring. And then we've got the sponsors. We're still reaching out to different sponsors and pushing out. I think you should have seen today, we announced all the different vendors. So we're really doing another push to push out the different vendors that are going to be participating in this now that we have them. We do need to meet all the ADA compliance standards, and one of those is building not just a ramp, we need to build a platform onto the shed and then a ramp to the side. So that's a project we're working, and we're pricing out some of the general contractors. On top of that, we do have the training workshops for the vendors, so we're breaking those down. We're going to have 4 in-house, and we're working with the WBDC to have additional training and networking for the different vendors. So once they hit the ground running in June, when we have the grand opening, they're going to be ready for all that. We need to get the lease agreement signed, so those will be coming up in April. So we've got to draft up their lease agreements and then the program agreement. And then the grand opening, we're hoping for a soft opening end of May, and then a grand opening June 7th. So consulting services would be helpful at this juncture. KPGS has recently become available, so they were not available when I initially came to you for the budget for this, and this was not part of the budget initially that we anticipated. But they would be available April 1st, starting as needed for approximately 10 to 16 weeks. They would help out with grant applications. They are here to present to you as well and answer any questions you have specific to the project. They have enhanced marketing and promotions that include website updates. It also includes vendor websites, because that's part of the process, is to make sure the vendors have their right websites, that they have all their social media. So that's a different training component of that. They can reach out to additional community partners. Also reach out for additional grant applications, promotional event planning, and some overall strategic guidance and management and oversight. So since they've done this successfully and have seen it through. The total cost for that would be $19,500 for time and material as needed, depending on what staff has already completed. So at this point, I can answer any questions, or we can have, the consultants are here to present the rest of their presentation.
Unless the board objects, so why don't we have the consultants make their presentation, and then they could stay up here, and then whether the questions are needed for Libby or the consultants, we can go from there. So if they'd like to come forward and introduce themselves. I had a chance to meet them briefly before the meeting and thank them for being here tonight. So if I could have you come up to the microphone and give us your names for the record, please.
Sure. Thank you for the time, everyone. My name is Patrick Greenacre. I have a deep history, 10-plus years of marketing experience, working with everything from small one-shop hair salons to, super giant churches and everything in between. Yeah.
I'm Kendra Shaw. I have a background in community development. I have a master's degree in economic development and community outreach with a history of doing retail incubators at this point through Peace Corps and then my time at a recent job.
Yeah, so I think really just to get started, the one thing that Kendra and I found that was the most important to us through the whole retail incubator program that we set up in Berwyn, we found that education tends to be the number one sustainer and motivator and what really helps businesses grow. So one of the biggest things that we always try and put forth is education. So a few of the things that we offer. So with my history and background in marketing, I can do everything from print media to digital media to websites to Google Ads. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun, but I really found my passion is to help small businesses. So what I've learned myself, and the best way to do this is to start creating things for the vendors so that they can help and create things for themselves. So one thing we noticed is that somebody can be really, really, really excellent at making a candle that smells awesome or looks like a cupcake, but they have no idea how to build a website. They don't know how to do promotions. They don't know how to do social media. So one of the things that we implemented in the last several years at the Berwyn shops is that when we ask for something for marketing purposes, say we need a description of the business, we no longer just ask for the description. What I've tried to do is create a form that asks questions. Hey, can you explain your name? Hey, can you tell me how you got started? Hey, can you tell me about one of your favorite moments? And all those questions are very specific for the vendors because the final request there is going to be, hey, can you write a 25-word short intro to yourself and teach everybody who you are? And then can you also do a 200-word intro about yourself? And the goal there is really to help the businesses start thinking through the process of marketing on their own. And that's sort of what we do all the way through the project.
I want to say too that Libby and Dee have done a great job already doing a lot for the Brookfield shop. So we're here really to make it more efficient, help them as they need, take some stuff off their plate because they're doing 70 things at once to help Brookfield. So already working on drafted emails, make sure that we can really make this program an educational program, as Patrick was saying. It's not just about giving them a chance to be in the space for the 6 months. It's about making sure they get as many learning opportunities as possible. So our job as consultants would be to make sure that that is efficient. So we come with a lot of partners, a lot of connections through our work that we've already done. And we've already been working with like 14 to 20 people interested in setting up something similar. So really building that book so that we can hand off to Libby and her team and to everyone here those program elements so you don't have to start from scratch. So thinking about rubrics, the graduation program, lease agreements, anything related to site manager duties and what the vendors can do on site. And then everything from forms on the website, as Patrick's background in marketing, works well with mine in grant writing and in writing forms. So we do have a background as well in funding and helping get partnerships. So we started the Berwyn shops 4 years ago. We're heading into our 4th season and did all the fundraising ourselves. So grant writer is in my title and background with a lot of partnerships, and then working to make sure we get in-kind services. So we've gotten waste services at our space, everything from the Wi-Fi setup all the way to trash pickup and free fencing. So really bringing those tips and tricks, best practices, lessons we learned the hard way, so that you guys don't have to.
So really, when I first started with doing the shops project, I was moving a lot of plywood, moving a lot of drywall, and really got my hands like legitimately dirty swinging a hammer. But what that allowed me to do was to really see an efficient use of a space. A lot of people think that, you know, a 10 by 15 or a 10 by 10 space is relatively easy, but it gets complicated to lay out. So giving directions there to help set up how the space can be used, not only for you guys, but also for the vendors. You know, the goal really here is to not take away from the vendors. Every time you walk into one of those shops, it's like walking into a jewelry box. You know, the site's looking great already. It's going to keep growing and improving. And what we want to do is make sure that we're enhancing that with the vendors. So we offer the services of also interior design and how to lay out your shop to make sure that, you know, there's smooth flow. The other thing that we really noticed was how important special events are, not only to the shops and to the space, but also to the community. The one thing that sort of took me by surprise with the Berwyn ones was how often families returned. So one of my favorite stories there is that we had a cupcake maker, and she would tell me that every day, or every Saturday, Saturday morning, the mom and dad and the 2 children would come with the stroller, and they just did their rounds at the shop, and it became like a ritual for them to come in and leave and go get stuff and check out each of the vendors. With customers like that, you continue to grow your business, and as we keep stating, you know, businesses growing are what we want to do. We want to make people succeed, so that really helped out there. And then on top of that, it also became an event space for the city of Berwyn as a whole. So we've seen things everywhere from on-site yoga. You know, you drive by and all of a sudden you just see, you know, 30 people laying down in the boardwalk, like focusing and meditating. Kind of an unsettling thing right off the bat, but then you realize it. We've had Santa, we've had Mrs. Claus, we've had nonprofits come and just sort of table there. We've had the school, they came and their choir came and sang. So again, it's really much more past the idea of, hey, let's bring these shops in to get them to sell stuff. It's, hey, here's how to do some cool things, and then also make it become a community space. I know you guys as art council and your conservation is wildly important, and we agree 100%. So when we were on site, there's so many opportunities to do some cool stuff and partner with local organizations to really grow that. And being able to take time and figure out how those partnerships work, we're really looking forward to.
And then I love data, so I always try and build in a feedback loop, not just for us, but for everyone involved in this project. So when you think about partners, you all stakeholders, they really want to know what's going on and how does this impact the community. So we've seen in the last 3 seasons that have graduated already 8 open up storefronts, which is kind of wild. And then us as a duo won an international award, recognized for this type of programming, which is weird to say out loud. And through all of that, we still want to know what the community thinks. We get feedback every year from our jurors, our vendors, the community, because we want to know how to improve forever, continue growth, and support for not only ourselves, for the vendors, for the stakeholders. So with all of our background, we come with experience, best practices. Again, we want to make sure that you guys are set up for sustainability and success. So we're here to help strategic plan with whatever you all are needing. And these are just fun photos because it's colorful.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. And just to give the board kind of some background how this came about tonight, I mean, staff approached me about the possibility or idea of this, of some consulting. Libby saw the opportunity. And when you saw Libby's presentation earlier, just kind of the steps that have been taken so far with the shops and the remaining steps, there's some pretty daunting tasks there. And I mean, would be pretty daunting. I mean, I know the board knows the size of the department and the number of people and the tasks that they have. And if this was the only task they have, that would be pretty daunting. But as we know from the rest of the agenda and executive session and other things, Libby has other things going on, and Deanne and everyone else has other things going on within the department. So while this wasn't necessarily anticipated in the beginning of the project, the opportunity arose, and staff approached me about bringing it before the board to see if there was a consensus to support this, and that's why I brought it forward. So at this point, I will open it up to questions and comments of the board, whether it's for staff or the consultants.
I think the various task items that are talked about, you guys aside, have to be done to ensure the success of this. As President Garvey mentioned, there's a lot of tasks, a lot of things that are going to happen in the next 10 to 12 weeks. I don't know that staff has the time, nor necessarily the background that the two of you have in this And I think having them as our consultants will give this all a better shot of, being a really, really good success for the village.
I agree. I think it's a great investment in our investment. So,
I'm surprised that you didn't come earlier.
I wish I could have presented this 3 months
Yeah.
ago. So they had some time restraints with their previous employment.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just wondering how much access do the vendors work directly with you, or are they working through Libby?
It'll be kind of a collaborative effort. So we're doing the kickoff tomorrow, but then all the vendor programming, Kendra will be working heavily with that, and then Patrick would be working on helping them set up their website. So it's a collaborative effort. Tomorrow, they're coming in to meet staff and kind of everyone here, so we have that one-on-one with them. But it'll be a group effort, kind of moving forward from there, because then it'll be taking them to the site, orientating them there, making sure the site management is done, doing all the build-out, and, they know better than I do since they've gone through it, all the little nuances of that.
I concur. I'm in total favor of it. I mean, they have a proven success record with this, and they've already gone through the growing pains to help us avoid going through it, so I concur.
And I agree with Trustee Kaluzny. It's kind of, investing in our investment. This wasn't necessarily anticipated at the beginning, but it is it's a startup project, and we've already invested a lot of time and money and, staff energy into this, and I think it's been very positive at this point. So, the initial investment is going to be more than we planned, but I think we have to support this, through. I just had a couple questions. I mean, Libby, you mentioned earlier the possible DECO grant, and what was the potential grant amount on that? I know we haven't heard, but.
I believe we asked for $85,000.
Okay.
So we had to match what we already had in there. And then there's another grant that's, the creative, which one? The creative placemaking grant, and that is due April 10th, I believe. So we'd like to be able to apply for that as well as any other ones that kind of come across.
And that was part of the scope of services that you would assist in grant. I mean, no grants that we're aware of, but I'm assuming you're aware of other grants. And just a couple questions on that front. Are those grants typically grants where they're partnered with the village, or are they grants with the individual shops, or, what's the mechanism for most of the grants?
So I've done all of the above, mainly done DCO grants through the state and then a few federal grants. And then some with the county, so we're close partners with everyone at the county and the Bureau of Economic Development. And then all the way to helping the vendors apply for grants themselves. So I think in the last 4 years since I've been in the Berwyn community, we've had almost $50,000, or $50 million, go out to businesses in Berwyn. So it's both. It's helping the vendors apply for themselves and then us on behalf of you all for the project.
And I mean, we've done a lot we have very talented staff, and they've learned how to do it. We do a lot of grant writing in staff. In past, other towns have had grant writers and things, but your scope of services covers the grant writing. You don't take a percentage of any grants that are obtained, or there's not additional fees if you obtain grants that come off the top of the grants?
I mean, if you want to. No,
Just based on past experience, I wanted to clarify that. So.
No, it's included right now.
Okay. And then on one of your slides about the scope of your services, you talked about, I think it said, website updates and stuff. Do all our vendors already have websites, or is it website creation assistance with some of these, or is it only updating one of their existing websites?
They're at different levels, so some are pretty advanced that are actually familiar with both Patrick and Kendra, and then some are still, they really don't have a website. So that'll be part of the kickoff tomorrow, is to see where everyone's at and then adjust accordingly with the 6 of them. So that way we can either help with the website update, or if they're set on that, then help with the social media and kind of set up those platforms.
And I guess the language, and I know it was just a slide, but it said website updates. If they don't have an active website or is there website creation included in this? If a vendor needs a website creation as opposed to an update of an existing site, is that part of the services?
Yep, 100%. So I've worked with many businesses to launch new websites, relaunch websites, update websites, and really fine-tune the process to make it a relatively easy process for people to do. And one of the things that we recently introduced in Berwyn was called a Berwyn Internship for Small Businesses, where we actually helped connect local college students with businesses to help them launch websites and build websites and launch social media. So all that experience will come right in hand. And as I was mentioning with the forms, I'm not one that'll go and say, hey, here's how you do it, just do it. It's going to sit down, have a conversation with people and figure out what they need, why they need it, how they go about to do it. And then sort of to that extent as well, one of the new things that we introduced into the shops last year was a social media report card, where we took all 12 of our vendors, analyzed their social media at the start of the year, and then every month we did another analysis of each of their social medias and websites to make sure that they're doing the things that they need to be doing to improve it. So it was really a great way for us to keep in contact with the vendors, but also, selfishly, I wanted to see how much we were helping and where we were going. And we said every single one of our vendors has grown either from 0 to thousands, or from 20,000, 30,000 up to 40,000, 50,000 followers and website visitors.
Great. Other questions or comments from the board?
Oh, this is great.
And Tim, please refresh my recollection. Is this something that requires board action, or is it within your authority and you were just looking for, because?
Yeah, if I could just say a few comments first. And you and I had several conversations about this. You asked a lot of good questions. I don't know if I provided good answers or not, but
You did.
I think the bottom line is we don't know what we don't know. And I give this woman, Libby, an amazing amount of credit. She just came to me, hey, let's try this as a way to activate this business area. She was involved very peripherally in Berwyn, but she goes a mile a minute on everything she does, but she's like, let's just do it. We went to the EDC, and these two people you guys were at the first EDC meeting, and I remember after the meeting, I leaned over to Libby, why don't we just hire these guys to do it? And they weren't available then, because President Garvey had asked, well, why didn't we build this into our original budget? Well, as far as I know, you're the only two that do this from a consulting basis. So if the board said no to this, we'll make this happen. I don't know how, but Dee and Libby will figure it out, and they'll just do it. And they've done an amazing job to date. I think Trustee Cotter-Kaluzny mentioned they have a million things on their plate, and always do. And, they'll just build into their day somehow the ability to get this stuff done. But as we've said, I think as the board has recognized, we want to do this right. We want to do it well. You get one chance to make a first impression, and if this first year goes well, and the program, it looks good, it feels good, it acts good. We've already had a great showing with initial applicants. Not that I was happy to hear this, but it was nice to turn people down. So we got 6 out of, what was there, 15?
Yeah, we had 17.
17 that applied. These guys will help, these two will help us create a playbook. We can have this playbook for this year to get us going. We can decide next year, maybe we just follow the playbook then. I don't know where you guys are for next year, but then we can decide and have a conversation with the board whether we want to use them again for subsequent years. But it really would be, I think, helpful to help get this thing launched and launched correctly with their help. So I applaud the board for taking this action. To answer your question, it's a long way to answer your question. Yeah, my spending authority per the code is 20,000, so they're coming in just under that. So.
And the reason I ask is because obviously with the meeting, there's meetings coming up right now, and I'm assuming we want them participating in those meetings, and if we waited 2 weeks, if there was board action. So tonight, if a consensus from the board, I think I have unanimous consent from the 4 members of the board present, which is a majority of the board, that there is a consensus to support you signing on to a consultant, subject to, terms of the agreement, subject to final legal review by the Strino and Durkin, so. Okay.
Also, what a cool business, helping small businesses. So thank you for doing that and choosing that.
And then really just one last thing to leave you guys with. Kendra and I say this 10,000 times a day. We want to set people up to succeed. We want to make sure we will never leave a project thinking that it's going to fail. We really want to make sure that we set you guys up to succeed. And as mentioned, the idea would be to create a playbook. Here's what you do. And next year, you can start to follow it, and there'll be templates and website templates and social media templates, all to make it a little bit easier as every year goes on. So.
Well, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for offering your services, and there's a clear consensus from the board, and Tim will go ahead with finalizing the agreement, and we look forward to working with you and achieving success together.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Libby. Okay, the final item we have is a discussion of the Brookfield gift card program. We we started a Brookfield gift card program, and staff has done some analysis on how it's worked out, and the Economic Development Commission met and had a very detailed discussion on this. So again, we have a very detailed memo from Deanne in our packet, but I'm going to turn it over to Deanne now to kind of summarize what the Economic Development Commission recommended, what the analysis showed, and what the recommendations are. So.
So back in December, November 2023, the board brought this program to Brookfield to drive economic activity and, boost the businesses here. We ran into a glitch, not on our end, but the program, thank you. The program, back in November, there was a breach. None of the inventory that we had were impacted, but we decided to take a look at the program, where we were with inventory. So we brought it to the Economic Development Commission at the February meeting. After giving them the analytics, which I'll show on the next slide, they determined that we should discontinue the program. They didn't feel it was successful. So we learned that back in December of 2023, we spent about $23,000 in an investment for the cards. And as of today's date, we've only spent, this is a new graph, just updated a little bit from the analytics I ran earlier today. We spent $10,881, leaving inventory over $12,000. So we thought we would have, as I mentioned, it went to the Economic Development Commission.
Can I just clarify?
Yes.
You don't mean we spent.
I'm sorry.
They were
yes.
redeemed.
That's how much.
10,000 was
Ours has
redeemed.
been.
10,000
Yeah,
was
sorry,
redeemed.
Yes. Play on my words, sorry about that. So yes, 10,000 was spent on the cards and leaving an inventory of over $12,000.
So that amount has been, the village isn't losing money in this.
No, I think it's clear to the board, $10,271 have been redeemed in terms of
Thank you.
customers using them and being redeemed based on the analytics. And we could tell where they were redeemed and stuff. We have that information. But I guess, I think the point is that there's still 13,000, almost
Of what
13,000.
Gift cards people bought but then never redeemed?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
thank you.
there's,
Is that a
But
thing?
actually, go ahead, trustee Kidd.
well, I say, this is kind of turned a little bit from what it was intended to be. There really should be, and I don't think is, any cost to the village on this, short of whatever staff time you would have for someone coming to the window, I'd like to get a $100 gift card. There should be zero investment by the village other than that. What happened, it sounds like, is the Chamber of Commerce in particular, several businesses within the chamber were buying the cards and loading the cards to sell them. So of that 12,000, the chamber has a substantial amount of gift cards still on hand. So they started giving these out at different events. I think, again, the intent was to sell them, but they haven't necessarily been sold. So there are people who, we all have gotten gift cards, gift certificates. You get a $100 card and you spend $95, at $5 just sits there. Or you get the $100 gift card and you never use it. There are those, but I think the greatest majority of this outstanding is cards that are sitting loaded with money on them that aren't being used. So that, I don't think that was the intent of the program. The intent was to, someone gets a $100 gift card and gives it away or for themselves, and they can shop anywhere in Brookfield on it. It wasn't to buy the card and sell it or not sell it. So that's where it's kind of turned, and we did a lot of advertising that first year, that first fall, so 23 into just past the holidays, and then there's been virtually nothing about it. You did have an interesting slide that someone sued who?
Libby, the lawsuit you mentioned for the going out of the geofencing area, could you speak to that?
Yeah, there was some other litigation that was ongoing with cards that
geofencing area and said you could only use a gift card within one area. So that's up in the air. Technically, once you sell the gift card, it should be able to be used wherever, so it's not, it wouldn't be just in Brookfield. Where that's gonna go, we don't know yet. That was just a note, something to keep in mind.
Sure. Additional consideration if we want to get involved in possible litigation, so.
But I mean, there's been, again, the intent of this was to promote shop local, shop in Brookfield. We've had different programs over the years, and most of them haven't worked at all. I mean, whether we look at this as a success or not, this has worked better than any other shop local program we've had in town, from, going back to the Brookfield Bucks to, years ago, the Chamber, you'd have the promotions where you'd have to go store to store and get a card stamped or something, and then you could turn it in for a $10 gift card or something. The intent of all those was the same thing, to shop local, which this was.
Yeah, this was a cool idea. I bought some, and I used some.
That's you then.
Some of those are me.
I think a lot of it's of us, I know. I use them, and I know sometimes it was helpful, when some of the stores or the chamber members had them, it was just sometimes convenient if I needed them for an event or for a gift, and the village hall wasn't open, so I could go to one of the businesses that had them and stuff. So and I know some of the businesses still have them in their drawer, and you can buy them and stuff. But I guess the point is it worth the continued investment, and I'm not to, I was going to let Deanne finish her presentation about what the recommendations are and options are, so.
Yes, so option one, that's based on the Economic Development Commission's recommendation, is to discontinue the program altogether. Option two, close out the existing inventory through a targeted marketing strategy. And option three, continue the program with a modest investment of $3,000 to $5,000.
With option two, closing out the existing inventory, what happens to those $12,820 that's out there?
It's just like any other gift card that you might purchase at another store. I understand it's after 5 years they expire. So if someone is holding on to a gift card in 5 years, it'll expire, but they could reactivate it as long as we have to log in to the program, and then it resets that 5-year clock.
And is that language on the back of the gift cards telling people they have 5 years to do that?
I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But we don't control any of that $12,000, right? We don't have anything here.
No.
That was the clarification that money's been given for the cards, loaded onto the cards, and now it's sitting in people's wallets. And one of the comments of the EDC meeting I thought was pretty accurate. Consumer habits have changed. You go in now and you pull out your iPhone and you just pay, to try to think about before you leave to go shopping and have that gift card in your wallet or whatever, your purse. People don't think that way anymore. And that may be one of the reasons why we're not good at this. We tried Brookfield Bucks, that was really unsuccessful. This was more successful, but it's just we aren't, and I think because of consumer habits changing, it's just this time for these type of program may have passed years ago.
Well, and maybe that's an argument to it, but if this is a buy-in Brookfield program, it probably works for that. I mean, if you had cash, you can go anywhere you want, anywhere in the world, and spend your money. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, with this, you're stuck shopping in Brookfield with the $100 gift card you have. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. That was the whole point of the program, was to promote shopping in Brookfield. And I know, I gave out quite a few of these cards, and it would get people thinking, okay, where can I go in Brookfield? What do I want to do? I can buy gasoline. You could go to the record store then. You could go out to dinner or whatever. It gets them thinking about shopping in Brookfield on it. The option three, I don't understand that. What are we investing in?
Additional cards, purchasing more cards, and then just doing a marketing for the existing.
But what are we doing? Are we giving out gift cards that are loaded with money, like a gift certificate?
We would sell them. We would just have more on hand. We have no more on hand at the village hall, so we'd have some on hand.
Because what we did before, I thought, was none of the cards were loaded with anything. So when they'd come here to the Village Hall, I'd like a $50 gift card, I'd like a $100 gift card. I'd
There
like a
were
fi-
specific denominations.
Okay, but I thought they could literally ask for whatever they wanted to be loaded onto that card. So the cards themselves didn't come, it's not like we were buying a card with money on it.
Ours were loaded.
They were specific amounts.
It was 25, right, was the minimum, and
Oh, maybe we went to that. I know I had bought in a bunch, and I think it was Diane that loaded the amounts on them at the front counter.
Okay, but I mean, to the point of, is there anyone that thinks that we're going to want to invest additional money in cards when right now we know that whether they're ours or not, there's $13,000 or $13,000 in cards out there. Is anyone in favor of option 3?
I have a question before option 3, because if you do option 2, if you don't do option 2, people just have money they can't use?
If we do option 1, all we're saying is that 12,000 is still spendable. And
So
we'll-
people can just keep,
For 5 years. So option 1 doesn't mean that people who bought these cars or gave these cars to somebody, that value is not going anywhere.
okay.
So option 1 is basically that 12,800, once that's spent in Brookfield, then that's it. Then the program is over. 4 or 5 years happens. The other 2 options are kind of, maybe option 2 is a modified version of option 1, that we aren't going to buy any more cards. We could do more targeted marketing to.
But I guess the point is, why would we spend money on marketing 2 for gift cards that we don't specifically have? I mean, I'm just trying to narrow because that's what I was going to ask, because it seems like the EDC had a recommendation, and it seems like it was option 1 versus option 3. Was their recommendation clear as to?
I think they did talk about marketing. They did speak to helping drive the existing inventory that's out there to use those cards in Brookfield.
But how would that marketing work from our standpoint? I mean, I'm all in favor, but I mean, we know the chamber has a large amount of these, and then, I don't know if it's the chamber as a unit has them, or some individual stores have them, and they haven't been, and some of them, we really don't know, I believe we know the chamber has X amount of unused cards in their possession, but then we also, I believe some businesses have some, but we also don't know how many that the businesses have sold that have never been redeemed. So I don't necessarily know how much money we want to spend on marketing that.
what was the discussion at EDC? Like, what are the negatives of, other than having this money out and people not, because I mean, I've used it in the past, and I'll go into a shop and buy a card and then also buy other things and package it and give it as a gift or whatever. So I guess I don't see the negatives of having this program.
I think looking at the analytics, they just felt it wasn't a successful program, so they felt it should be discontinued and not move forward with purchasing additional cards.
I think, to that point, I mean, looking at, there's 12,000 that wasn't used. Again, what does that mean? It means a couple different things. Some of it's not used, some of it's just sitting. I think there was also a lot of discussion on what, Tim had talked about, where, buying habits are what they are, where you wouldn't just be stuck shopping in Brookfield. We pretty much heard that at the meeting with that.
Right.
Except that my argument to that is this was a shop in Brookfield program.
Right.
So yes, you are stuck shopping in Brookfield with this program, absolutely. But there was a lot of talk about that, being able to use it use it wherever, or that kind of thing.
I mean, my thoughts, there is a cost, there's always cost anytime the staff has to do any initiative and take these things or order them or load them up or do them and monitor them. I mean, my thought is, and I mean, Tim's point about how shopping has evolved, I kind of support just terminating the program and then maybe revisiting down the road. And there's new technology. I mean, Tim's right. People just buy with their phone. Maybe in the future we bring something back where you can load it onto your Apple Pay or your other thing, and that's available. I mean, physical gift cards are kind of going away at this point. But I mean, the question, EDC made a clear recommendation to just kind of terminate this program. In terms of, I'm open to if the board wants to commit staff to marketing cards that are not in our possession, or, I'm not against helping the chamber get rid of them or help them, but I don't see the point of investing additional amounts in it, without spending a lot of time marketing it. Trustee Naramatsu, I'm with you. I've used them, I've bought them, I've given them as gifts and things like this, but I think there's other ways to do that, and we can spend, say, time and money and marketing money on other things, is my thought.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, is there any data on the seasonality of the usage of the cards? Are they being used more?
They are used more towards the
Summer
holidays,
and
for sure,
holidays.
yes. But
I'm just wondering with the incubator program, it might be a good way to market those as well.
But I think you have to, we really had 4 or 5 months where we marketed this. And we have the numbers on it, probably shows that's where the majority of the money was spent during that time period. Right around, when the Kris Kringle Mart was going on here. It was really marketed a lot there. So that was the holiday time. And then we really haven't heard anything, for all this time. I don't think we spend any additional time marketing it. We're going to market a program that's not around anymore. I think, the chamber and their businesses that either market it or find a way to, use that money on something. But I think you'd see that, when we talked to, the chamber president at one of our shops meeting, he said they had quite a bit left there. And I know several of the business owners have them too that they're selling in the store. So they have them, but I don't think there's something for us to do to market that.
I agree. I feel like unless we buy more cards, we shouldn't invest more in marketing. But if there's businesses in the chamber that have bought lots of cards, then maybe we can help the chamber with an initiative that is marketing where to get them. If we know which businesses have those remaining cards, it seems like a chamber initiative to maybe get them back out into circulation if they're still usable. Awesome.
But they would, for those businesses that have them, they're still good at any business in Brookfield that takes the card. So those businesses, including the Village of Brookfield, so those businesses could show up at our front counter and pay their water bill, and that refunds the gift card for them. It's real easy to get rid of the money that way. But we're not sitting on that. We're not sitting on $12,000 worth of them.
No,
So-
I think that's clear. I think Trustee Klusny's point is, if we want to, if the chamber takes some initiative and tries to market the ones they have, we could support that
Yeah,
by
we could promote
sharing,
it.
by sharing their social media and marketing strategy. But so I guess you're kind of option 1 and 2 hybrid, a little bit, like provide some marketing of what the chamber has, but not a specific marketing program of ours type thing?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, here, I'm just trying to clear. Trustee Naramatsu, are you still considering, that we should buy some more cards?
I like this program.
Me and you both, I bought some, I would buy some in the future. I just think that,
I'll just go buy a whole bunch. I'll be all right. Don't worry.
Okay. Trustee Cote?
I'm in favor of option 1, and as far as helping market it a little bit, you could put out notifications out on social media pages, and that would limit the cost of whatever that marketing's gonna be.
Okay.
Okay,
So
thank
that
you.
seems the consensus of our thing. And we're open to revisiting, the idea. The whole, as Trustee Ketchler pointed, the whole idea was a good idea, trying to get people to buy in Brookfield. And maybe there's just new technology and new things. We just got to change with the times. And maybe it becomes, we have an app on the phone where you can download it and, everyone just buys with their phones now. So, okay. Thanks for bringing it forward, Deanne. Thanks to the Economic Development Commission for reviewing it. Okay, that ends the items that we have up for discussion on the Committee of the Whole. We do have an executive session, but before I ask to go in executive session, I'm going to open up the meeting to public comment. Is there anyone on my right side that has any public comment? Mr. Levin, if you would like to come up. It's good to see you. We know who you are, but if you could state your name for the record.
I shall. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sam Levin, and I've been a resident in the Hollywood section of Brookfield for over 30 years. I'd like to comment on 2 public safety concerns. My first comments are directed to the danger zone along Prairie Avenue. I'm an avid biker, jogger, dog walker, regular walker, and driver throughout the neighborhood, including the intersection of Prairie and Washington. On days, I'm there numerous times. When I read the article in the editorial in Landmark, it reminded me of something that happened several years ago while I was jogging. Specifically, there was an accident at the intersection of Prairie Avenue and Washington. The drivers were on the sidewalk talking to the former fire chief, who was just a firefighter at the time. I don't mean to denigrate any firefighter, not justify, he was a firefighter at the time. Given my jogging speed and being humorous in a blue-collar way, the former fire chief said, "Hey, Sam, you ought to pass out your business card at this intersection because nobody stops at the stop sign." In response, I told him that isn't my bailiwick, but I agreed with him that the intersection is a danger zone. I share this anecdote with you because the admission of a respected member of the community, albeit not under oath, and to show the duration of the problem at that particular intersection. Whether it's the speed of the motorists driving on Prairie or their failure to stop at the stop sign, this is an important public safety issue that requires immediate action by the village. Personally, I'd like to see the traffic studies the police have conducted on the block in response to the residents' concerns. According to the Landmark, the police have measured traffic speed and concluded the average speed is actually 1 mile per hour under the limit, according to the article. I want to know, where are these measurements being taken place? The measurements should be under the speed limit because the cars are approaching the stop sign at Prairie and Washington, and therefore the vehicles should be reducing speed while approaching the intersection. In my opinion, the village should poll the people who use the intersection and who live near the intersection by asking them, have you seen vehicles run the stop sign? And asking them, do vehicles traveling on Prairie and Washington drive too fast? Let's bring the issue to the residents rather than relying on consultants with the taxpayers footing the bill. Now, regarding cars approaching the intersection, there's 3 types. There's those who stop, there's those who roll, and there are those who just blow right through it. Well, there's something you can do. The ones who stop, well, you don't have to do anything about them. They're just safe, good drivers. The ones who roll, well, I think you ought to have a speed camera there. You got some other camera device on Washington there between Prairie and the Salt Creek. I don't know what that's for, but I see Big Brother every day while it's there. I mean, just put a camera, make some money for this village. There's enough money you can make. Another thing you can do, some people just don't see the stop sign for whatever reason. Why not put, number 1, a flashing stop signs there, and number 2, put warning signs before the flashing stop signs so that they have 2 warnings. The measurement should be, well, so that's my suggestion for potentially solving the problem. But let's not just get into a pissing match between the police saying we've done these studies and it's not a problem, and the residents saying, look, we got this property damage and people being injured or whatever. You know, let's use some common sense and ask the people. They're there every day. They see it. They live by it. And let's take some remedial action, simple remedial action, and as I suggested. Now, the next public safety issue involves the dead tree at the southeast corner of Parkview and Rosemear. Mike, Kit, Tim, if you recall, I stated a concern about the tree in an email to you. My concerns remain. That's all I have to say on these 2 public safety matters.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Anyone else on the right side? Anybody else on my left side? Okay, hearing no further public comments, I would, give me 1 sec. I would entertain a motion at 8:38 to go into executive session pursuant to Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the village's use.
So moved.
Second.
The motion to go into executive session was made by trustee Kaluzny, second by trustee Naramatsu. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark?
Aye.
Trustee Cote?
Aye.
Trustee Naramatsu?
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're adjourned into executive session at 8:38. I do not anticipate any board action coming out of the committee or out of the executive session, and we are going to conduct the executive session